It was the summer I turned 33, a season that felt like a turning point, though I couldn't quite explain why. By then, I had been married for almost a decade. Our marriage, which had once been a passionate whirlwind of love and adventure, had quietly transformed into something else entirely. The thrill, the spark that had once been so vibrant, had faded into a muted routine. David and I still shared a home, divided the responsibilities of daily life, and even enjoyed each other's company in a familiar, comforting way. Yet the intimacy we had once cherished seemed like a distant memory. The romantic connection that had once bound us had slowly unraveled, and our physical relationship had become mechanical, then infrequent, and finally non-existent. One evening, after another dinner that felt like a replay of countless others, leftover lasagna eaten in silence, I decided it was time to confront the growing distance between us. David was on the couch, his attention fixed on some crime drama playing on the television. His feet were comfortably propped up on the coffee table, and he seemed completely absorbed. Nervously, I sat down next to him, my fingers twisting together as I tried to gather the courage to speak. "David, can we talk?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady and calm, not wanting to sound too dramatic. He muted the TV and turned to me, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "Talk? This sounds serious," he said, his familiar, lopsided grin somehow distant. "It kind of is," I replied, feeling my heart flutter in my chest. "It's about us, about our intimacy." The humor in his eyes faded. He let out a long, tired sigh. "Emily, come on. We've been married for 10 years. What do you expect? Passion doesn't last forever. At least not after kids, bills, and a decade of seeing each other in sweatpants." That's where I met him, Oliver. He stood out in the crowd like someone who had stepped out of an old French film. His dark, wavy hair fell just above his shoulders, and he wore a vintage hat and an unbuttoned linen shirt that made him look effortlessly charming. His glasses gave him an intellectual air, as though he was always pondering something profound. He was an artist, of course. When he spoke, his voice was smooth and velvety, each word carrying a kind of poetic weight. We started talking about the pieces in the gallery, then about art in general, and eventually about life. He made me laugh, really laugh. The kind of laughter that made my cheeks ache, something I hadn't experienced in a long time. By the end of the night, we had exchanged numbers, and before I knew it, we were texting each other every day. It felt exhilarating, like being a teenager again. Oliver would send me sketches of the projects he was working on, and I would reply with pictures of the flowers blooming in my garden. Soon, our conversations moved from text to secret meetings. We attended concerts, walked along the river, and talked about everything and nothing. Each moment felt charged with a kind of energy I had almost forgotten existed. One afternoon, we sat on a bench in the park, the sun filtering through the leaves. He looked at me, his intense brown eyes locking onto mine. "Emily, you're beautiful. You know that." I laughed, shaking my head. "You're just saying that because I listened to you ramble about your paintings." "No, I mean it," he said, his voice soft and serious. "You have this spark, like you're waiting to explode with life. You deserve more than what you're getting." His words pierced through me deeper than I expected. In that moment, I felt seen, truly seen, for the first time in years. I knew then that I wanted to be with him, but he wasn't naive, and the tension between us was almost tangible, filling the spaces between our conversations and lingering in the quiet moments. I tried to find my way back to him, to the version of us that existed before everything had fallen apart. But it wasn't easy. Sometimes, I'd catch him watching me, his gaze lingering longer than usual, filled with a mixture of curiosity and something else, something I couldn't quite decipher. Sadness, perhaps, or maybe relief. It was hard to tell. One night, after putting the kids to bed, I found the courage to break the silence that had grown between us like a wall. "David," I said, my voice trembling, "can we try again?" He looked up from the chair where he sat, really looked at me, and for the first time in what felt like forever, there was something in his eyes, something other than indifference. He sighed, leaning back, his hands clasped together in his lap. Emily, I don't know. I want to, but it's hard. We both made mistakes. Tears pricked at my eyes again, my throat tightening. I know, I whispered, the words almost catching in my throat. But I'm willing to try if you are. He was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. A small, hesitant smile tugged at the corners of his lips. I guess we can give it a shot. We've been through worse, right? I let out a soft, shaky laugh, wiping my tears away. Yeah, I guess we have. So that's where we are now, trying. It's not perfect, not by any stretch. Some days, I still wonder if we're doing the right thing, but we're giving it a chance. I've come to realize that marriage isn't always about grand gestures or passionate moments. Sometimes, it's about finding your way back to each other, even when it feels impossible. It's in the small moments, the quiet gestures, that speak louder than words. Like David making my favorite tea without being asked, or me. It's about finding your way back to each other, even when it feels impossible. It's in the small moments, the quiet gestures, that speak louder than words. Like David making my favorite tea without being asked, or me